Should you be fixing typos in email addresses? That is the topic of today's video. It's a question I get a lot from clients. So let me give some context. You go to a website, you get a pop-up form. I type in my email address, I hit submit, all is fine and dandy, I go on with my life. On the back end, let's say you're an email marketing manager, somebody with access to that marketing system, you might notice that there's a bounces over time, or you might notice that there's a typo in that email. So what I'm talking about is things like gmail.com with an M at the end, gmail.con with an N at the end. Somebody has fat fingered on their phones or on their computer, whatever, and introduced a typo that is just a typo, right? Like, you can tell what they intended to write. It's very close to what it should be, what the accurate email address is. And the question I get from client is, can we fix those? Can we just go in there and change that email address from .com to .con so that they can start receiving the emails? The short answer, my hot take, is no, don't bother changing it. It's not worth the hassle. Here's why. When you look at the email regulations in place, I'm talking about the CAN spam, GDPR, anything about opt-in, managing consent. On the back end, you have a system that's going to have what was input by the customer with the timestamp that was input by the customer with what, yes or no consent that was input by the customer, right? That's like the underlying bedrock data that you are capturing whenever there's a form sign up. And the problem is that the customer didn't consent. They didn't. If they typed in a different email address, you don't actually have a trace of that email address consenting to receive marketing email. And that could cause you problems downstream, and it's most of the time not worth the headache to try to fix and or the risk of not having that bedrock data behind the scenes when you're doing marketing. That's a tough pill to swallow, right? Everybody who is doing email marketing wants to have growing, healthy list, and what a shame there's a typo in there, you lost one, or your numbers aren't as high as they could be. I will say that the way people most of the time discover these typos is they are looking at bounce reports. So you might, in your email system, maybe you're using Klaviyo, maybe you're using HubSpot, whatever tool you're using, you likely have an easy way to show you the bounced emails so that you can skip them, right? Like, some email was sent or tried to get sent to an email address and it wasn't able to go through. You get the bounce notice back, and your ESP, your email system, is going to be able to tell you this email address bounced. It's not good. Don't use it. Likely you have a bounce report or something that you're able to go in and check to see these details and see the mistakes. And you might be tempted to look at that and go, let me just correct those. And that way we can just go ahead and send them emails. And, I would say that's not the right way to do it. Now, that does not mean there's no way out of this problem. And let me give you one example that we helped a client with recently where this was the case, and the question came up, why can't I just change the emails? And what am I supposed to do? And what if a client emails our customer service team and says, I never received the coupon, and we go into the system and we see that there is an error. And the short answer is, have a template that your customer service team can use that says something like, hey, we noticed that you tried to sign up for our email, but the email address was actually entered incorrectly. Would you be able to check that and resubscribe? And you give them the link to subscribe again with the correct email address. That would be the best way to handle that. Now, of course, it has to be done relatively quickly because, can't reach out to somebody 4 years ago who put in a typo in some form and say, hey, do you want to resubscribe now? Like, they have moved on with their lives. They're likely not going to come back and ask you for it. But if it's something that you can rope into your weekly checks, or you have a customer service team, or you have, the capacity to eyeball this bounce list and catch these errors errors as they're happening, you might be able to recover some of them. It's worth having a template. It's worth training your team on. In general, you don't want to be manually fixing these in your system because it's not worth the trouble. The argument would be, maybe it wasn't an accident, right? I mean, I don't know. As a woman, have you ever had somebody ask you for your phone number and you give a fake one just because you can't be bothered? Like, it happens, right? And sometimes these pop-ups can be pesky, and sometimes it's an error and sometimes it's not an error, and it's not really your call to make whether it was an error or not. And all you have is this timestamp data, point in time that's known to be true, and kind of everything else is just your inference. And so resist temptation. Don't fix those errors. Let the bounces be bounces. If it's really important to you, or if it's sizable to you, then there's a couple things you can do. One is you can have a template ready to go and say, hey, we noticed an error. Did you mean to type this by any chance? Two is you can have something post-form submission, meaning I've asked for an email, I type in my email, and the message that gets displayed after I hit sign me up or give me the discount or whatever that wording is on your pop-up form, there's a place that you can say an email should land in your inbox in the next few minutes. If you don't get that email, please contact our support, right? Or please let us know, please call us, whatever other channels you have that you are manning as a business, you can list those out and try to recover people that way or avoid a negative experience. But from our experience, it's not worth it. And I mentioned this, we did a video recently on list hygiene, and one of the things you can find are bounces and kind of clean those out of your list. And that's how we come to know that this happens a fair bit across industries and clients. There's always some typos in there, and the question always comes up, can I just manually fix those? And unfortunately, I have to be the bearer of bad news and say, no, that's not really a good idea, because you don't actually have consent from the accurate email address to do so, and it's best to let these go and instead see what kind of measures you can implement moving forward to reduce these kinds of errors and, lost email addresses moving forward. So I hope that helps answer the question if you had it today. I'm Sarah Kaffler, founder, CEO of Centric Squared. We're a CRM-driven marketing agency, and we help our clients, navigate some of these areas and gray areas, and we help our clients navigate some of the questions that can come up when you're doing email marketing as a business. So you can reach out anytime to book a consultation. We're happy to answer your questions and see if our team can support you. That's it. Have a great day.